Welcome back to another episode of the Jonathan David Detox Show. Today, I'm always excited when I have guests on here, but I'm really excited today because we've got the one and only Detox Tori Vargas here, and she is a powerhouse, someone that has inspired me for a long time on social media. We've kind of run in the same circles, and I've gotten little parts of my blind spots filled by her. And I'll go into what that means more later on. But I'm just very grateful to have you here. Tori, thank you for being here on the show. I would love for you to give a brief introduction of really who you are and why you're here.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was a pleasure to have you reach out. I know we've been connected for a minute, and this is like the first time we're actually doing any sort of recorded conversation, collaboration. So it's come at a good time in my life for sure. I'm trying to just connect with more people, get back to recorded conversations. So this is great. Thank you so much for reaching out. I I feel funny about, introducing myself as Detox Tori sometimes personally, because so many people just know me as if that's like my first and last name, is Detox Tori, but that is just my social media handle. And I practice natural healing, natural health. I started on my own personal journey recovering after one too many rounds of chemotherapy, and my body really suffered, took a hit from that type of Western medical treatment. So from there, it's just been this breaking away from the system that I always knew growing up, that my family always knew growing up, and developing sovereignty through natural healing. And through my own journey, my own self-application, my own self-study, I ended up cultivating a demand of people just noticing the type of work I was doing on myself, and they were requesting help. And so I now am in a place where I support others from the wisdom and experience I've gained in my own process.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, Tori, thank you for giving that brief introduction there. I've heard your story multiple times, and I definitely want to dive into that a little bit here because it's so powerful. Just like all of us, like we all have a powerful story. And I love how you just said that, well, you started diving in on your own health, and it kind of just magnetized people to you, drew people in that are also looking for health. And that's how it is in any area of life, is when we figure out a way to suffer less in this life and expand more, other people want the same thing. And so that's really what we're going to talk about on this show. And for those of you listening, I really appreciate you being here. What we're going to provide some value on today is, Tori and I sharing experiences with our own disease, our own health, our journeys, and really ways that we've found relief in that. We've helped ourselves, we've helped our clients, and then giving you easy, applicable information that you can take home and actually start today, because that's what it's all about, is taking these small baby steps that we can implement. We don't have to make these huge shifts. It's just, let's try something new. Let's try something new. And Tori and I have done a lot of that. So yeah, very excited to talk about this. Tori, let's start off with, whatever you feel like is top of mind for you. But what I would love to hear about eventually is really how your dis-ease first popped up, when you were like, oh wait, I'm not healthy. Because I don't know about you, but most of my early 20s, I was like, yeah, I'm healthy, until dis-ease set in and I started to crash. What was that like for you?
I think the thing that came top of mind when you were talking about how we're going to share, the baby steps that we took, I want to make it so clear that in my journey, like, nothing was just a protocol. Everyone always comes requesting a protocol. Everyone books sessions requesting a protocol. And the reality of how the body actually healed, and I've seen it viscerally in my experience, I've seen it in clients where they've been put on a protocol and it's still not quite breaking through that like glass ceiling of that breakthrough for their own healing. It really is the lifestyle. The way of being that we are is ultimately what's going to move the needle. It's not this like acute 3-month structured tiered protocol that may make it seem really easy and tangible in the short term, but like in order to heal, it is the whole. So that's what comes top of mind before I even start diving into anything talking about health. It's like, it really is just change. Like, there's no shortcut to the change and no shortcut to a new lifestyle in order to get the freedom and liberation that all of us are looking for from physical disease or from physical manifestations of spiritual disease.
Yes, I love the way you worded that right there. Okay. I fully agree. I'm so glad you highlighted that. We're all so intricately and innately different. I don't think it's possible to hand any of our brothers and sisters a protocol that's exactly what they need. Anytime I hire a coach, a mentor, someone, a strategist in my life, oh, I'm going to eat a lot of what they bring to me, but I'm undoubtedly going to throw some of it away every single time because I'm different than them. But it's the bits and pieces, the gold nuggets that we pick up on our journey. So maybe talk about that, Tori. Like, what are some gold nuggets that you're passionate about talking about from your journey?
Nugget that I try to drill in so hard is like not waiting until your back is up against the wall and until you have no other option. Because what happened with me was I, my health journey kicked off with an adverse reaction from a Western medication. I took a pill that was very similar, acted very similar to a vaccine physiologically, and it made my body go into absolute chaos. And I had this crazy reaction to where my blood was just suffering. And I'm not going to get into the details of all the things that were happening cellular on a cellular level, but I ended up in a hospital bed, and I couldn't walk on my own. I couldn't shower on my own. I had a central line coming down my neck where they would transfuse the blood out of my body every single day and pump me with steroids and chemotherapy on the other end of it. And so, you know, when I look back at how I was before this health incident, which happened when I was 21 years old, when I look back, the signs are there that I was not healthy, even though naturally, like I was always an athlete. That masked certain symptoms. I was always like naturally having this strong constitution. I didn't get sick often. That masks the things that are lying down deep. But, you know, as a female, my period was absolutely ridiculous for my entire life when I got it. I had acne all across my chest and my back through my years of playing basketball, to where I would have to cover up in my basketball jerseys because it didn't feel good. Like, these are clear signs of like blood imbalance, lymph imbalance. I don't know if I had digestive stuff. I don't remember that. It didn't feel significant. It was always like lymphatic stuff, blood stuff, skin stuff. Like, that was always the patterning of how my body showed disease. And I didn't pay attention to it. I was drinking. I loved drinking a little too much. I loved smoking weed a little too much. I was on birth control, like switching between the pill and the depot shot for any ladies who are watching, like bouncing back and forth between the two of those. It was just like, looking back, it was chaos, and I didn't realize it was chaos until this one thing like shook my spirit awake. And I was like, oh, there's no reason why a 21-year-old should almost be like laid out on their deathbed. And so that is what I say. Like, if you recognize symptoms, which you probably do because you're watching this podcast right now, you watch Jonathan on social media, you watch me on social media. If anything, is calling you towards the health field, it means you're noticing. So pay attention to that noticing and take it seriously before you're forced to take it seriously.
Yeah, that's key right there. And it's getting easier and easier, I think, in today's world to just pay attention. Like, what is life saying to me? There's signs everywhere. And seeing signs is a skill that we get better and better at. But the signs are there. So, yeah, listen to that calling. Holy moly. Every time I hear your story, even just the scratching the surface right there, um, it lights me up, Tori, because it's so relevant or relevant, I know, to so many people listening, where we think acne is normal. We think fatigue is normal. We think hormone imbalance, erectile dysfunction, uncomfortable periods, all these things, it's just normal. But like, guys, we came here to be vital, powerful expressions of life. There's so much health to just reach out and grasp. Tori, I know you said something I wanted to go back to. You said I don't know if I had digestive issues, but I had a lot of lymph and stuff. From my perspective, we have digestive issues. That's where it all starts. We just don't know we have digestive issues until it starts to display in lymph and all that, right? And you're I already know you agree because I see your face. You're shaking your head. So with that, can you talk a little bit about how it's the first step to health and how it's really easy focusing on the gut?
I know. It is truly like if anything is wrong in the body, that is where you start and the majority of it will clear. That is your number one elimination system. It's the most significant elimination system. Your bowel movements every single day, you are excreting waste. And if that system is clogged in any capacity, some people may not experience bowel movements that are solid, that are a good size, that are a good consistency. Like, if that's not the case, then there is remnants being left behind. And over just years and years of not eliminating fully and completely, it's leaving behind these layers that then impact onto the bowel walls. And, I think one book by Bernard Jensen it's called Tissue Cleansing and Bowel Management. It articulates that concept of impacted waste over years ends up being reabsorbed into the body and the bloodstream and the organs surrounding the digestive tract because you are breaking down the gut lining over time as this waste stays sitting on it. And then naturally, if all that waste isn't coming out, it can get reabsorbed. And that word is called toxemia, when you're in that state of the bowel accumulation is now affecting and reabsorbing into surrounding systems.
Okay, you broke that down very in a very comprehensible way. So I hope if anybody listening understood that. If not, though, follow Tori's content, follow me. We talk about this concept a lot, but something I want to tie that into real quick is as above, so below, as within, so without. Everything, right? We have these mirrors in this life. What Tori just said there is happening on so many other areas of this experience. Remnants, if we don't deal with relationships, friendships, romantic, business partner, whatever it is, if we leave fragments unsettled with people when they leave our life, that will cause toxemia in our experience, whether it's physically or how we relate to the next person that comes in our life. That residue will be there impacting things in the future. We see this trend happening everywhere. It just takes different shapes, different forms. What we're talking about right now is specifically inside the body and the gut specifically. However, a really cool thing about this, in my perspective, and Tori, I want to hear your perspective on this, is when we get those remnants out, when we start to clean things up, tidy up the house on the inside, everything else in our life starts to follow suit. At least that's been my experience. What about you?
Of course, I think once you start this path, it's inevitable that you notice what is aligned or what requires a boundary or what is taking your energy in a way that maybe it doesn't have to be, because you get sensitive. Like, once you start caring for yourself and you're kind of putting some energy towards this physical vessel, you get more aware and in tune with what's like pulling your attention and directing you in places that are not meant for you per se. So yeah, I would say absolutely for me, it has come up.
Yeah. And like I said before, it's so easy because we just don't attain everything that we want in one moment or one action. It's just these small steps that we can be consistent with. And um, changing the gut health is the foundation, in my opinion, for so many things. Tori, you have a free guide that you offer people. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yes, of course. I think that whenever I give information in any sort of guide like that, it covers the foundations. If
Mm.
anyone were to apply the foundations of how to eat in order for accumulated waste to release, that's like the first step, is like allowing the body to release by cleaning up what you're putting into it. And then just the practices every day that also support that removal of waste. Like some people, being healthy is different from healing the body because there is a lot more that goes into actually reversing disease than just changing your diet. There's this lifestyle care that happens where people do have to stretch their body, massage themselves to improve circulation, make sure that they have enough hydration, even if any sort of like nature therapy exposure, hot and cold therapy exposure. Like some people need these types of things to pump the lymph, ground the nervous system. So, yeah, the guide that I have covers the foundations of what you're putting in your mouth and the lifestyle tools and techniques that you can apply quite easily to start seeing results.
So it's a easy, first, free, applicable step for people to take.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Thank you so much for creating it because these things take time, right? Effort to create, to make available, to update, all this stuff. But that is so powerful because I fully agree. And this is why my motto is small, easy steps that we can be consistent with because it's lifestyle, it's mindset, it's what we're putting in, it's what we're getting out, it's internal, external, it's all these things. And here's the exciting part about this is, at least for me, it never ends. Like, a lot of times we're like, well, what I'm going to do over here only has so much dopamine hits, like, and then it's out. But like, no, life, the health journey, there's endless dopamine hits. Like it's fun. There's always something new to experience, a deeper level to achieve and to taste and feel. And if anybody has the mindset like, well, I need to get healthy so I can go back to focusing on this, I'll say, no, health gets to be the foundation of your focus. It's where the clarity of our focus comes from, is the foundation of a healthy life and lifestyle. So yeah, I'll put a link for Tori's guide below that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to inquire to you because there is, speaking from someone who has like my lifestyle dialed in, I'm speaking to someone with their lifestyle dialed in. As a practitioner like me and you, I feel like there's almost two conversations that can be had in a setting like this. It's like the conversation of people who need the support and are trying to dial in their lifestyle and are kind of working on these foundational, simple, easy steps. But then there's a conversation where like we're doing high level protocols and juice fasting for 40 days and mucoid plaque cleansing and doing this and that. Like those are very two different almost archetypes that like we could engage with both. And I don't know, I'm just inquiring to you, like, do you see that as well? I see that often. How do you, your podcast here, like what audience are you mostly speaking to? I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Your reflection.
I love that question. Yeah, there's so many different angles to hit and depths to dance on. Um, as far as like who I speak to, it's always changing. And yes, I have my target demographic, which is people seeking for applicable information in health. And that does tend to be a little bit more surface level because the people that want to go deeper, they're investing the 4 and 5 figures for a one-on-one practitioner, for a detox retreat, for these things, because they're already reading the books and doing the self studies. So we do tend to talk more on this podcast about the how do you get started, what self studies can you get into, and inspiration. However, there's an aspect of this where I don't think about who I'm speaking to. I just speak what needs to come through because I'm a channel. I'm just here. When it pops into my head, I go with it. And yeah, it can take us to so many different levels. And I'm a complete nerd with this. I love physical health and how it applies to, like I said, to every other aspect of life. Um,
I think,
but
part of me being a channel too is I felt called to say that because I think I think we might be doing a disservice if me and you in particular, are not nerding out about the stuff that could be considered super high level. Because I think like I would want to ask you, be like, what have you learned and what gems have you gotten seeing the difference of the extreme protocols, that pendulum swinging on this side versus staying more neutral for an extended period of time? Like how is this, what role do both have in your healing path?
mm, okay, good question. And I'm glad you went with that intuition of like, yo, we gotta bring this up. Before I answer that, anybody that is like, okay, yeah, I might not hear the rest of this. I'm really surface level right now. I just need a place to get started. All the links below for Tori, especially with her guide. It's got like food combining, seed soaking guides, how to prevent depletion during a detox, how to restore the body, how to eat for the detox, after the detox, healing the gut, all this different stuff in there. And then her website is below as well. And you can reach out to her for consultations, joining some of her groups, all that stuff. All right, now let's get nerdy with it. um, Ask your specific question one more time before I dive in, because I can go lots of directions with this.
Yeah. I guess what role, what gems, what lessons, reflections do you have on the place of neutrality and more foundational approach versus like that more higher level might be considered extremism in some cases?
Yeah. Okay. Well, um, this human experience is very real. It can be perceived as very real. It can be very wild. It can be, like if you've seen the movie The Matrix, Neo's like, holy shit, like that's not real. I thought that was real, but really it's not. And so this experience that we're having in this realm of matter and these human bodies, we have to have, okay, I can't say we, I have to have something that brings me back to the center, that keeps me balanced, that, um, yeah, it's basically just my backboard, my fail safe, right? And so that baseline is practices, lifestyle, what I really think this experience is to me, who I am in this experience, my purpose for being on earth during this time, all those things. That's that's kind of like my bug out bag, my survival kit. That stuff doesn't really change. However, from that home of knowing, peace, balance, all of that, I branch out and I go on some wild missions. And these branchings out is the discovery, the research, the testing things. Some might perceive it as extreme. Some are probably like, hell yeah, keep going. Whatever. It doesn't matter how other people perceive it. But for me, I go on these adventures and there is this balance, um, because I get to have a balance. Life doesn't need to be black and white. I don't remember which yogi or mystic said it, right? But maybe it was Ram Dass, but said when you're emotionally charged on something, there's more work to do. And I'm probably butchering that or paraphrasing it, but what it means to me and how I apply that nugget in my life is if I'm super stoked about something or I'm like depressed or worried or whatever, if I'm on either side of balanced with it, I create some distance and don't shame myself for having that experience, but just realize that that's an experience and to not identify with it, not to not place too much in the manic expression or the down expression, but just to be with it and know that my identity and the balance of everything is right here, even though I'm tasting these opposites right now.
There's a concept in the Bible that talks about how feelings feelings do not make good masters. Feelings should be your servant.
I absolutely love that because for several years now, ever since I became conscious of what everything was in 2020, I started realizing that, oh, I have an internal guidance system that I can rely on because my whole life, I used to be diagnosed with PTSD, borderline personality disorder, all these different things. And so my whole life, I was gauging right and wrong, what I should and shouldn't do based off of external things. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I have an internal guidance system that I can listen to above everything and everyone else. That's pretty cool. And I just went head first with that. And the guidance system to me is my feelings. If something feels good, I'm going with it. If it doesn't feel good, it does not have place in my life. But I don't look at that as my master. It is the guidance system serving me. Those feelings are serving me so that I can make my choices. So I love that you just said that. All right. We're back. We're good. So
This is getting
Tori,
good. This is getting good.
yeah, it's how I fly around this universe and embody my unique blueprint. I'm an Aquarius. I'm spiritually and energetically androgynous. I've lived a lot of lifetimes as a woman. I've been a mother. I know what it feels like to have a womb and a female body. And in this lifetime, I'm rocking and rolling as a man, and I'm pulling a lot of masculine energy through. And so I'm very different in so many ways, and how I balance and like have fun with this multifaceted experience of not just this lifetime but multiple lifetimes is yeah, not holding on to any one thing but just experiencing it all. And so going back to your question, there's the foundational, the mundane maybe, and I've learned to really find joy and pleasure in the mundane, and from that place of stability and foundation go on these wild adventures that are all part of the journey.
How did you come to revelation of like these previous identities that you've held, and how have you come to like feel viscerally related to those other identities?
Okay, so there's so many questions like that I could go into great detail and explain each specific one, which I'm happy to do on some of these. However, the overall concept that I want to bring through that I think is very important and has served me very well is you're always exactly where you're meant to be, and you can't mess that up. You can't mess anything up. Everything that happens happens for a divine reason. There is no mistakes in this life, or there are no mistakes. Was that a mistake saying is instead of are? I don't know. But either way, everything that happens happens. And to me, it's beautiful. And it's led me to exactly where I was supposed to be. And so it's allowed me to adopt this mindset of why am I here? Why is this happening? Where's the nuggets? Because I know there's gold nuggets everywhere, somewhere. Instead of, oh, but what if that's something I need to be cautious of? Or what if that's a danger? Or what if that's a risk? Am I doing this right? Should I have done it better? Like there's two ways to experience the same damn thing. I can experience and think about the one experience from different perspectives, but my perspective is my reality. Your perspective is your reality. I shift my perspective, I shift my reality. And so, with that kind of overall explanation, tapping into my soul's blueprint, where I come from, why I came here, what my mission is, how many times I've been to Earth, all these little details that were just, I became conscious of. That experience wasn't like this experience that, oh, I found this is going to happen. I went and did a intensive plant medicine journey that was specifically designed to killing deep ropeworms and parasites. I went into it not because I needed plant medicine. I actually hadn't done plant medicine for 3 years at that point and was like, I don't think I ever will again. But I was really stoked about the deep parasite cleansing, and it had a lot of energetics and all this stuff with it. So I went into that. But coming out of that 5 day experience, I had found this scroll of information, basically this data, this info that I'd been searching for every single lifetime on Earth. And it all concluded in this one moment. But I didn't go there for that. I just went there because I was Jonathan following my path of killing more parasites. And so it's like, I don't even necessarily seek for anything anymore. I just show up and know that whatever is supposed to come, it'll come. The right person, I just moved down here to Phoenix. The housing situation I was going to move into wasn't a good vibe, wasn't a good fit. And because I know that inner guidance system, I said, yeah, this doesn't feel good. Life instantly brought me something else that worked and that is great. And I got a cute little plant behind me now. And so everything works out. I could go on and on, but does that make sense, Tori? Because sometimes I speak with this Piscean Mercury, and I'm more telepathic than words. But did that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense because I know what you're talking about. I
Okay.
think that part of I guess why I was asking a little bit more of a specific question is in case people can't like break through that kind of mystical communication per se. But like I know what you mean for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. To leave it as like a digestible piece for me, it's just yeah, living your life. It will work out perfect. You don't have to stress about it. You don't have to fear making mistakes. You don't have to live with shame or guilt. Just claim your power as a powerful, amazing, unique being and just keep rocking it. It all works out. Yeah. What about you? As far as the highs, the detoxing, the killing the ropeworms, all this stuff, anti-aging, maybe living for hundreds of years, all these things versus I got acne for some reason it won't clear up. Like,
Yeah. I mean, now we're definitely getting into the forest. I I don't do plant medicine anymore, but there's one visual that will always stay with me that has come up almost on every ceremony, and it is kind of this imagery and this location that I'm brought to of this dark and twisted forest. And it's very damp and it's very murky and muddy and moist. And it's an interesting location. And in that location, I my acne started to heal, is like what I will say. It is so interesting that I was like looking back on my old social media highlights from when my face started to clear up after it was really, really bad. And I was like, the things that have cleared my skin finally. I can't believe I can say this. And it was of course all the physical things. And at the very bottom of the list it said plant medicine. And I reflected on that. And there's an element that my first encounter and my first experience in the spiritual realm has come from plant medicines. And in those experiences, it does lift a veil to some degree, of course, and it brings like highlights awareness and areas and places where healing has to happen if it's not actively happening already during that journey. And acne, specifically where it was on my face right here across my cheeks, it was like directly correlated to this like deep shame about something in particular and deep guilt about something in particular and regret about something in particular. And when we look at the emotional body and the physical body, I've always seeked, I've like, okay, why do I have acne here? Like, why is it here? Why is it so persistent here? Why is it not here? Why is it not down here? Why is it not here anymore like it used to be when I went through puberty, like so many years ago? It was here. And that acne came up, of course, after chemotherapy was a trigger, but emotionally, a lot around the time where it started to pop up, I was highlighted that these are the reason why. And it wasn't until, I won't say complete healing, because my more recent encounters with God completely outside of plant medicine has actually provided healing and forgiveness while being completely dead sober, crazy supernatural stuff. But my skin started to clear when this like internal environment of mine started to get shaken up, and these experiences that were just deeply ignored and pushed and suppressed and like embedded into the fabric of my tissues that I, Tori, was not consciously even acknowledging, for those to just be like ripped up at the root, it did bring a level of that shame, that guilt, that regret to the surface to release to some degree until it was able to fully be taken from me in my more recent encounters and experiences. So just like you talk quite mystical, I hope you understand what I'm saying, because I know I wasn't saying it specifically, but you know, it's the essence of what I'm trying to say. I hope it came through.
You chose good words.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious because everything you just talked about, that wasn't easy.
It's not. It's not.
I'm curious, and here's the thing. Okay, everybody, we all experience a lot of the same shit that's cloaked differently in this life. It comes through different physical experiences, people, happenings, interactions, whatever, but it's a lot of the same stuff on a frequency or energetic level. And so I want to speak to that suffering and that pain because it might resonate with someone that's listening. It definitely, I feel it in my chest listening to you. And I'm curious, like, what has been your rock or your ride or die energy or whatever it has been that you've relied on to get through all the suffering? Because just on this conversation, you've expressed that you dealt with chemotherapy. You went through this, which is a lot. Your body, because you're in your 20s, right?
20, just turned 27 a week ago.
27. Your body, you have gone through so much.
Mm.
In this young body that you, this ancient soul, is riding around in. Yeah, what's that journey been like, and how do you, how have you stayed strong through that?
Mm. You know, like as I was even talking through that, like it means a lot that you shared that you felt it in your chest, because like my body's also reacting to what I'm saying, even though I'm not even quite saying exactly what it is that I've experienced. Like it kind of, it's not something that will ever go away, honestly. It's like this like part of me where like I do relive as I speak, even if I'm not actually telling. Uh, I think there's a level of resilience that I like don't even, I cannot take credit for it in any way, because like quite a few people in my life will be very quick to tell me that I'm very young, and they'll be very quick to share with me that I may have like a lack of ability to communicate very maturely, or whatever they want to say, and just be quick to remind me of how young I am. But the reality of it, like, I really, really feel like I've been through a lot of these things related to my physical body. Kind of these feelings of these experiences of shame and guilt and regret have also been related to like physical procedures and things that have been done on my body. And there's a lot of like spiritual attack that has been on my physical body. Like, I reflect on it and I'm like, okay, there's a clear lesson for Tori to know how to overcome physical traumas and physical like war on her body that has proven time and time and time and time again. Like, the chemotherapy is only one of like so like there's so many clear significant things that like are attacks on my body, and it's put me on the path that I am for a reason. That's the reason why I'm a natural health practitioner. Like, it's like all of the dots across my whole life like so connect so cohesively. Just kind of to answer what your question is, it was about what is my rock. I will acknowledge that that was your question. I got a little bit in the weeds, but this conversation is, it's starting to, feel a little on my heart for sure. And I anticipated that's where our conversation would go. I felt it. I felt
Mm.
it. Like, the second you reached out the first time, I was like, oh yeah, me and him haven't talked that deep, but there's something about this conversation where like, yeah, it's almost going to share quite a lot. But I don't necessarily feel like I've had a rock um, until like now. I feel like my whole life has been anxiety, not really depression, but like anxiety. Um, my natural constitution is this like kind of nervous system disarray. That's part of like the reason why I handle like going live for so many hours at a time and just going and going and going, is because there's that level of like my nervous system is very primed for like kind of exaggerated talking and loud talking and handling it for a long period of time, and just like my adrenaline pumps very actively and quite well. But that is partly what I feel like has gotten me through these experiences on my body. And that nervous system ability to kind of mask things, like, has successfully been a rock of a type, but it's almost like a false rock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was in the hospital, like two things happened, and I intuitively knew like for me to get out of this, I need to eat as healthy as I can in this hospital, and I am surrendering to these doctors. I am surrendering and having faith in the most high, in the path for my life. I am just like, it all of it had to come completely off of me. And that is probably the first time in my whole life where I have felt what it feels like to release any sort of attachment to anything, because I had no idea. I had no idea, because I also didn't really have a rock either. Like, what got me through that was just the surrender and the faith. But then, you know, now, now my rock is not My rock is not really any practice, really. I'd say my rock after that chemotherapy was kind of like idolization of my body and this desperate healing of my physical body. When I started to share my story online, I always said, like, I don't talk about the spiritual stuff. I'm here to be a teacher of the physical body. I said that forever, like probably up until literally within the last couple months. I've said, I don't teach anything about spiritual stuff. I've always used to say too, I'm young, like, you guys are moms, you guys are older than me, you guys have kids, you guys have these experiences. Like, I'm not going to touch that. But now, like, there is this release of my body as an idol because now I live in very good balance. I'm eating bread again out here in Mexico. I never thought 2 years ago I'd be eating bread again because it's a mucus forming food. You know what I mean? It's just like these evolutions. And now the rock is these encounters specifically that I've had recently where I cannot even explain like how God, the highest spirit touched me, spoke to me in my ear, audibly told me that I was forgiven for these things that were having shame and guilt on me. Like, my rock is thinking about those experiences. My rock is like holding that story and those encounters like deep in my heart whenever something is trying to pull me in a different direction. That's what I've got now. Like, just this knowing and this peace that has come from something that was not of my own doing, an encounter that was not of my own doing, that was not of my own seeking, that was not within this ceremony I sought to go to, that was truly given to me when I least expected it. That was long-winded, but I knew you were listening.
Yeah, thank you for going into that. Being comfortable with being authentic, that can be vulnerable and scary, but I really appreciate that. And I see you and I witness you because I felt that very deeply. And I'm really glad you went deeper with that because I was about to invite you to, but you did it. It wasn't like the survival, the um, anxiety, the high paced nervous system. That was a mechanism to get through the hard times, but that wasn't the rock. And you said what sounds like to me the rock was surrender. And that's tough for a lot of times because we feel this guilt and shame like we're not worthy of surrendering. Surrendering is giving up. It's saying, "Hey, I need help." But like there's many ways to look at this and it doesn't matter how someone looks at this, whether it's a God outside of themselves or it's them in every expressionable variety of life helping itself. However we look at it, we are held, we are supported, we are born worthy, and we cannot lose that worthiness. We can't gain more of it. We're just fucking worthy. And we get to pick that up and say, oh, I set that down somewhere along the way, but I can pick this back up and know that I don't have to feel the shame. I don't like this isn't a burden I have to carry. And yeah, you had me tearing up when you were sharing that because there's so much pain that everyone experiences. Now, we have the opportunity to shift our perspective on pain and experience it as bliss, but I'm talking about when we experience pain and we label it as pain. We've all been there. However, no one will ever know your level of pain other than you. And I say you, talking to everybody. And that's where I say thank you for being you. Whether it's you, Tori, or it's someone listening to this right now, thank you for going through all of the pain that no one will ever know. Even if you wrote a book, multiple books, or filmed a movie about your life, there will be parts that will never be witnessed other than you. And that's pretty special. That's like the most beautiful part about being us. And everybody, we all have a rock, something that gets us through. And I'll agree with you. Before I realized what mine was, which is just love, it was surrender. I had to surrender until I could find the love. And now, like, crying because of sadness and happiness is like the same thing for me.
Same. Just cries at that drop of anything.
It's like when I'm suffering and I'm hurting, I a lot of times just start laughing because it can't hurt me anymore. I'm all powerful. I just get to experience it knowing that I have a whole team. Everything that's ever lived and ever will live is on my side, and we got this. Well, I'm proud of you, Tori, and I'm very inspired to keep living my own journey in my own uniqueness, because when I connect with other royalty like yourself, it reminds me of how complex me as life, not Jonathan, but as life is. And it's good to connect with another version of me. And anybody that's listening, like, go look in the mirror. After you're done with this, go sit in the mirror for 5 to 10 minutes and just be with yourself. And remember that there will never be the unique version of you other than you. And like, I see Tori, I see you, your uniqueness. It's so beautiful and awesome to get to experience you outside of the hundreds of reels I've watched of yours. And everybody has the opportunity to witness that in themselves. All right. The last question I have for you before we start to wrap this up is, basically, what would you say to someone that is hungry, that is ready to go through whatever the hell they have to go to live the good life, to find their own power and their joy? They're not necessarily worried about the blockages and like how many fasts they're going to have to do or what education they're going to have to get or whatever it is, but like, what's their next step personally?
Something came to mind of how I'm going to answer this question right away as you got halfway through it. So there is, I'm pretty sure you studied iridology, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in the iris, there's a marking called the ring of nourishment. Some people will call it a malabsorption ring. It's this area around your pupil where, your pupil is what your soul sees. That's how your soul sees this outward of this physical body, right? Is your pupil. There's a ring around the pupil, for those of you who don't know what iridology is, where some people will have it and some people won't have it. A lot of people do have it, though, in today's society, actually. A lot of people do. And the interpretation of that marking around the pupil is that you may be someone who is not living where you know you should be living, doing what you know you should be doing, acting on certain habits or practices that you know you should be acting on, implementing certain things you've learned that you know have resonated in your heart that you should be experimenting with. Usually when I share that with people, they would know immediately what that thing is, because it's across any of the facets of life. What is it that is not here with you yet that should be? And I don't think I have any advice for anyone personally who wants to take this journey. Like, I literally don't. It's more like, hi everyone, what is the next thing that you should be doing? Because you know what it is the second you're posed the question.
Skillfully answered. Beautiful. I love that because it applies to everybody differently. And we are the infinite source of intelligence. We can tap into, oh, that's what's next for me. And it's our unconscious mind. You can literally sit there and say, Jonathan's unconscious mind, tell me what is the next step for me in my personal development. And boom, the first thing that comes to my mind is from my unconscious, which knows everything. And boom, it's perfectly created for me. And then I can go act on it.
Are you comfortable if I ask you that question to answer? What's your next
Yeah.
step? What's your next step that you should be doing?
All right. Let me ask it myself and sit with it. Yeah. My next step is unapologetically expressing myself and losing all the costumes. And this applies to the most minute foundation of expression, which is how I express myself to myself, then the people around me, my housemate, my friends, whatever, and then the world at large, clients, marketing, just expressing myself, sharing myself with my world. If you follow me on Instagram, like I post on my stories all the time because like, yo, you guys are my friends and I'm just sharing what's going on in my life. But to do that without it needing it to be acceptable, that's been the biggest thing that's come to me in the last month. And that's what just was fed to me again when you asked me that question.
Before we hit recording, I obviously asked you about your name. And part of I feel like there's a lesson or there's a nugget for me in your experience in shedding that and reclaiming Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Was there resistance to doing that publicly and outwardly? Mm, what thoughts, if if fears came with making that transition outwardly and publicly? How much did you care? How long was it pressing on you before you actually did it?
Mm. Good questions. I'm going to start with the last one and work my way backwards. And I'm glad you brought this up because I've actually never talked about this publicly, I don't think, except for like when I announced my name was being changed back. I had felt that the time was coming. I could foresee it in my feelings, forefeel it. Probably 3 months before I did. And I knew that, like in the past, I would have handled this differently. But last year, when this happened, I was like, okay, I acknowledge this is going to happen. It'll happen when it's ready. I'm not ready. I don't want to let go of that. And kind of like what you just said, I was worried about what people would think. How is this guy? I'll back up real quick. If you know astrology, my Chiron is in the seventh house in Leo. My biggest wound in this life, the incurable wound, is that I'm not seen or heard and that people basically discredit me. And so, also, as a heretic, as someone with a 5 line in human design, as an Aquarius man, I'm putting some wild stuff out there all the time, right? Talking about drinking urine, everything. So, I'm very used to getting rocks thrown at me. And that's also my greatest pain. So, oh, this guy, I'm already worried unconsciously about being shamed as like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Now he's changing his name. This guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. Why would you even change your name to Krishna? And now you're changing it back. What are people going to think? Discredit me, blah, blah, blah. That was present, which is why I wasn't ready to do it because I don't make decisions until I'm ready to make decisions. I make decisions now with a full belly of breath and a calm nervous system, whereas I used to reactionary do things. Um, yeah, so sitting with the uncertainty of what that was going to be like, Then before, when I got to the place that I did change it back to Jonathan, my birth name, I didn't worry. I wasn't worried about what people would think. I knew exactly why I was doing it. I knew what this experience was feeling like for me, what I was creating, what I was doing, why I was doing it. And I felt really solid about all that. So something I've learned over the past 3 years since I got divorced was, if you make your goals within your control, you always win. And so what I learned was, like, the goal is not how is this going to be received by the world. The goal is just doing it. And if I hit that goal, I win. The rest doesn't matter. And nobody ever really said anything about it. And the only people that did say something about, like, dude, I'm so proud of you, like, and all the stories were gone. But yeah, to answer kind of your main point, like, I got to a point where I didn't identify with a name anymore. So changing my name was something that I needed to do to just honor my own journey of self-discovery. And it was weird. My dad disowned me. Other people, like, were like, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. Who the hell is Krishna? And all this stuff. And then other people were like, you change your name to Krishna, like the one and only Krishna. But I needed to do it for me. Honestly, didn't even know who Krishna was when I picked it, which is funny. But then I got to the place where I didn't identify with a name. I didn't need that. I actually really loved my name. And I had found my own love, my own power, my own identity. So I didn't need it to be or to not be in a name, because it exists outside of any container or words or letters or anything like that. Did I miss out any questions?
No.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that.
What does your name mean, Jonathan? You said it was related to what you do.
Yeah, Jonathan is gift of God, beloved gift of God. Um, David is, I'm not exact with this, but David is more like brotherly love. Um, and then my legal last name, Gross, is on a large scale. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing here. This has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for bringing the fire, bringing the authenticity, because, yeah, it's fun to dress up in all these different costumes and play this game and have fun with it. But where I tear up and I laugh and I cry and I hug and I just enjoy the deliciousness of this life is when I come back to just how we have the opportunity to be honest, to be open, to be real, and to know that we're always safe in that. Mm. And that's part of the physical, how we started this conversation, the physical detoxification. If our cells don't feel safe, we won't heal. And so we do talk a lot about physical healing, but like you've said so many times in this conversation, Tori, like, there's a energetic, spiritual side to it, and that looks different for every single person. But creating spaciousness, which is what I heard you say, just not in these words, when I said, what piece of advice would you give someone? It's basically creating spaciousness to take inventory of your life. What's the next step, right? But we can't do that if we don't take time away from the spouse or the kids or the job or whatever it is, and just be with ourselves. So if you're watching this, go be with yourself. Save this video, like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do, but come back to this. Hit Tori's links below this video. Check it out. Connect with her, because she's an awesome starseed soul sister on this path, and it's so cool to see you continue to grow. And you said you're in Mexico, right? I got to come to Mexico soon, because Tulum is one of my favorite areas on the earth.
Florida at the end of March. I was just here for 6 months. I actually just got engaged in Tulum in this really insane, there's a place called, for anyone who's in Tulum, there's a place called Azulik. And it is this museum in the middle of a jungle in Tulum, but the museum is integrated with the jungle. So like you're climbing through this sculptured building, but it's also built around the trees in the jungle. I can't even describe to you, but that's a Tulum will always be a place in my heart for that reason.
And that's where my man popped the question. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. I need to get Sebastian on the podcast too and talk about all kinds of good stuff, especially guy related.
Yeah.
Congratulations to both of you. That lights me up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've never said, I've only told like my immediate people through text and phone call. So
Well, you better shout it out because I'm going to release this episode
I
soon.
know. I have to. I was feeling like I have to, which is why you brought up Tulum, and I was like, well.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, Tori, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. As always, to everyone who watched this episode, any other episodes, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Always feel free to comment below on what do you want to see more of on this show? Who do you want to see more of? And what really has impacted you from the episodes that you've watched? Because having conversations is something I love doing, I'm passionate about. And if I can add value to your life through this media, then let me know. Have a great rest of your day. Big love.